Hello, and welcome to I Am Dad Podcast with your fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell. 30 minutes of wisdom, information, resources, and nugget on your fatherhood journey. Or maybe you're just curious and want to hear some real talk about fatherhood, family, and the minds of men. Well, guess what? We got you too. Sit back, grab your pad and pen, and maybe even bring a little something to sip on. Enjoy 30 straight minutes of fatherhood, family, and fun with the fatherhood authority, Kenneth Braswell.
Welcome to I Am Dad Podcast. Today we are thrilled to have Marcus with us. Marcus is the founder and executive director of Stronger Than My Father Incorporated, a Christian organization dedicated to inspiring and transforming today's youth. For over 21 years, Marcus has been a passionate youth mentor committed to helping young people become responsible adults and great parents. In 2016, he launched the Hope Leadership Academy, an after-school program that supports over 70 students in Antioch, Tennessee, with academic assistance, character development, and spiritual growth. In 2022, Marcus introduced the Stronger Sons mentoring program, focusing on professional and personal responsibility, dream building, and physical fitness, all while surrounding young men with positive male role models. A Nashville native, Marcus holds a degree in psychology and organizational leadership, and he and his wife, LaToya, are proud parents of 2 sons. Marcus's dedication to youth and family shines through everything that he does. And you know what? He's just an all-out good brother. How you doing, Marcus?
Good morning, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, Mr. Braswell. I appreciate it. It's good when you hear your bio, man, and you just smile and thank God for the opportunities that He's blessed me with.
Yeah, you oftentimes got to think, like when people read my bio, I was like, man, who is that dude? Like, what they talking about?
Yeah.
We start our I Am Dad podcast off very simple, but it gives a lot of insight to people with respect to who you are. And that question is simply, tell me your daddy's story.
Grew up with a solid father, Paul Edward Meneese Sr., my hero. And he taught me everything I need to know about manhood, fatherhood, how to be a husband, how to take care of your children, and the biggest thing, how to work, take care of your family. So when we talk off screen and you said, hey, man, I work all the time, that's my father. My father worked all the time. My mom had to accept it that my father loves to work. And so he raised 3 boys and a daughter and taught all 4 of us the value of work. So we didn't get a lot of days off as a young kid. My father said at a conference that I worked my boys hard so they wouldn't get in trouble. So I've never experienced jail or going through some of the things that you see on TV now. I have no clue these things because 80% of my life was my father, and then the other 20% was my mom going to church.
You need that church life, right?
Well, we only did that to get away from daddy. Daddy gave you the opportunity to go to church. And if you didn't go to church, you had to stay home and work with daddy. So as 4 kids, 3 boys, you got to make a logical decision. Do you want to go back and work with daddy, or do you want to go to church with mama? And man, we were rushing the car.
Or do you want to go to the senior choir anniversary?
Man, I want to go anyway away from daddy, because daddy will be waiting on you. He will give you one chance to go to church, because dad didn't go to church much back then. So that's pretty much my father's story. My father's still living today. My parents were married almost 53 years. Me and him are real close. And everything I do, and I work hard to make my dad proud, which I know he is, but my parents proud. So that's my father's story.
Man, thanks for telling that story, because I often tell people, like, I know a lot of cats that are in the responsible fatherhood game, mentoring game. And Yana Van Zant said to me some years ago, she says, don't become your story. Don't let your story be how people identify you. Yeah. And a lot of guys and women, to a certain extent, will get in this space and they lead with their tragic story of their fatherhood experience. And that becomes their identity. And I remember having a conversation with a good friend of mine who, similar story to yours, father was in his life, grandfather was in his life, grandfather, great grandfather was in his life, all lived within 3 blocks of his house. He said he was trying to get away from those cats. He was like, he had too much fatherhood going on in his life. And he said to me one time that, man, I don't have a story like you guys have. And I was like, man, like, don't lean on trying to like be us, be you. I said, your
Yeah.
story in essence is actually more, um, not more important, but is more insightful than our story, because what your story does for us is explain to us why the hole in our heart hurts so much, because you can tell us what it looks like to have a dad in your life. And that's inspirational. That's like, if you can marry those two things together, understanding what fatherfulness looks like and experiencing fatherlessness, you can pull those things together and become a great dad yourself. So thank you for sharing that story.
No problem.
Um, the other thing I want you to walk into is, because we all have a journey into our work, right? You know, people often say, like, Mr. Braswell, what did you go to school for? How did you like train for this? I'm like, life, bro. Life be life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I got here. And so I love when people tell the story of their journey into their calling and in their passion, because it really gives people insight to really thinking about their own passion and calling and trusting their own. So what led you to this work?
21 years ago, my mom asked me to mentor my cousin, who was 3.5 years old at the time. I was 27, newly married, wasn't thinking about helping kids. Really didn't know there was a fatherhood crisis out here. So the first question I asked my mom is like, why don't you call his daddy? Why are you asking me to do it? And so my mom looks at me and she says, Marcus, he doesn't have a father. And I probably said one of the dumbest questions out here. I said, Mom, when kids growing up without daddies now? And I didn't have really a bit of a clue. And then when I got to thinking about it, I didn't even ask my father-in-law for my wife hand in marriage. I asked her mom. She just said, talk to my mom, don't call my daddy. And I didn't put two and two together and say, well, why not? But that journey for my cousin, because me and my wife didn't have any children at the time, became like a father-son relationship. I spent a lot of time with him doing his growth, development. And then once he moved to Dover, Delaware in '06, I told my wife, I was like, man, I need to help somebody, help some of these kids, man. They don't have no dad. I wish they had the same thing I had growing up. And I went through school, went to Tennessee State in my early 30s, and I started researching fatherhood. I didn't know that it was a crisis. I didn't know 1 out of 4 homes have a father. I didn't know these things were going on. And I asked my mom. My mom came to me again, and it's just like, Mark, I know you want a job in training development, but won't you teach these boys what your father taught you? And from there, in 2013, I was my oldest son at the time was 3, and I was putting a shirt on, and the shirt said "Strong like Dad." And then God whispered in my ear, "Stronger than my father." And I stopped, and I got an ink pen, and I wrote it down. But I kept saying the word over and over again. And then I had my first website built, and I was actually going to go to public speaking, because that's what I really enjoy doing. And this lady talked to me and she said, won't you start a nonprofit? And I was like, what is that? And then so I had a consultant who I met, trained me, gave me the tools I needed to get started. And I was hungry ever since then. And just helping young men. I started in 2013 with just a few young men. First young man I mentored went out to college, Tennessee State. But my journey and experience was something that I never saw before. Like the first young man I mentored, mom wanted to destroy him. She says, I don't want my son to go farther than me in life. And I said, whoa, why are you trying to destroy a kid that's an AB student at a public school here in Nashville? And she just started crying. And so I didn't know single moms were going through a lot of different issues. And because there was no father in the home. So this young man graduated, went to Tennessee State, had the award ceremony to get his full ride. His mom didn't show up. So I picked him up, took him there, and a couple of days later, the mom went off on me, said that, you should have invited me to ride in your car. And so I was confused, and I was just like, she got mad at me. She just said, you can't be his mentor no more. So I was actually looking to get out. I told my mom, this is too much for me. I didn't see this in the home. I don't have time to be arguing with moms and stuff like that when I'm trying to help your kid. And my mom came back to me, and she said, Mark, your job is to save one child at a time. She said, you can't save the whole world. Save one child at a time. And so that's how I started. Started with my cousin, and I just didn't know. And I asked my mom when I was interviewing her on my podcast, and she said, Marcus, you always wanted to help kids. You always wanted to help people. You are a helper. You didn't ask for permission to help people. If you saw a need, you went after of it. And she said, that's the reason why I asked you to mentor your cousin. So my mom saw that my cousin needed somebody in his life. He was 3.5 years old. His mom died from a drug overdose. He never knew his father. And to this day, he still don't know who his father is. And so that's when I, mentor. I hardly ever call my boys by their name or mentorship. I always call them, hey, son. So sometimes I say, hey, son, in our session, everybody turn around because I want them to feel some sense of a father. That's all. I call my boys by their name, but I want them to have some sense of a father. So I have one young man call me just about every day. And every time it's on the phone, I say, hey, son, how was your day? And I say, hey, son, I love you. Have a good day. And my wife said, Mark, what you've done, you've given this young man a glimpse of what a father should be. And she said, you got to keep that up because if you stop, you'll crush that young man. So that's how I got journeyed into fatherhood. I've tried to leave it several times. God won't let me leave it. I tried to run from it, mainly because I grew up in a home where I didn't see hardly any argument. I didn't see violence. My father was not a violent man. I didn't see cussing out. So some of the stuff I see on television is confusing. I didn't even know, Mr. Braswell, you're going to think I'm crazy. I didn't even know domestic violence even existed. So I started seeing it on television. So I grew up sheltered. My mom finally explained it to me because I was confused. And this lady said on my YouTube page, this young man is smart, but you can see he's been sheltered. So I did have a sheltered life. My mom and dad didn't expose us to a lot of bad stuff. When we turned 18, they told us that you're going to see some stuff you didn't see in the home. So if you're confused and you don't really understand what's going on, you talk to us and you better not go to jail. And that's all my parents told me when I was 18. And so there's still things that I see that I'm confused about. But my heart and my passion is to bring awareness to what I call the greatest crisis in the world, or I say the greatest pandemic is the fatherless. That's the greatest pandemic out here. And so I use my voice to fuss about it, irritate people, but it's a serious problem. And so I've taken fatherhood really serious. It's raising 2 boys. Even when I left, he's like, Daddy, where you going? But I said, Daddy, got to work a little bit, but I'll be back home. So that's my journey to my work, the name Strong in My Father, and why I fight for fatherhood.
It's you put a lot in that. And so a couple of things. I think you and I had this conversation, and I know I have it with a lot of my friends who are in mentoring. And, sometimes I think they hear me and they kind of laugh and joke and think I'm joking when I say it, not knowing that I'm like dead serious when I do say it. And like my job as someone who's in the responsible fatherhood space is to put you out of business. That's my job. I said, because fathers are our sons and daughters. Our parents are our children's first mentors. And if I can strengthen fathers to be awesome in what they're responsible to be, and that's a father, there'd be no need for mentors that compensate for the space of parenting. Now, we're going to all need mentors, right? We need professional mentors. We need all kinds of people who are sages in our lives that gives us wisdom where our parents can't do that. But for the sake of replacing and compensating for a parent, that's a parent's job, unless the parent is physically not on earth or not able to do so. So no, I will never put you completely out of business. But to the extent that fathers can stand up and play their roles, there shouldn't have to be people who take up the mantelpiece of trying to solve the father absent epidemic, right? Because one of the other things that we talk about is 100% of all biological children on the face of this earth has a father. There's no such thing as a fatherless child. The question isn't if he exists, it is where he exists. And if you don't ask the question, where is he, you make the assumption that he doesn't exist. The problem with that is we tell our children your father doesn't exist, so they can't explain the hole in their heart. You have to make it clear to him that, yes, your father exists. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons why he might be absent, but him being non-existent is a non-truth. It's a lie. And so in order to heal that hole, you have to heal your reconciling that hole with the nature of whatever that absence is. Because once you understand that, Marcus, a child as he gets older will ask the right questions, right? And so if he's not equipped, if he's always been told he doesn't exist, he don't even know the right questions to ask. You are on the other flip hand side. You're on the extreme. Like when you say that didn't exist to me, like you didn't, like father absence wasn't a part of your makeup. You don't even know how to, like that doesn't even compute with you. Right? So the same opposite side with our children, like if their father is absent, just like if mom is absent, you got to give them the age appropriate truth so they know the right questions to ask when they become of age, and they keep adults accountable, right? Particularly those that will give narratives that their fathers are whatever their fathers are, and may not be telling the whole truth in that conversation, right? And so as an 8, 9-year-old, you may not challenge mommy. As an 11, 12-year-old, you might challenge. You in mentorship, you see this. You can see they start feeling themselves, as the old saints say, right? And they start asking more questions. 15, 16, they start asking some very different questions. They want clarity. They want to know what's going on in their lives. When you're working with the kids you're working with, like what is it that disturbs you the most that you wish parents would understand?
I think spending time with your kid, telling the truth. One young man, the one I told you to call me all the time, his father actually left him and his mom and sister for another woman that he got pregnant. And the young man was 5 years old. He was trying to understand why is my dad not here. So the mom finally told me the story because he was acting up in school. And I'm like, this kid too smart to be acting up in school. Why does he keep acting up? And so she finally told me that he misses his father. So that's why I stepped in. I said, look, KJ, we ain't going to do this. I said, every day you're going to call me telling your day at school was. And if I hear you act up again, I'm coming to your school and you ain't going to want to deal with me. That's how I talk to him. And so the question you asked about disturbance was the first young man. Like I said, the first young man was actually the one that disturbed me the most because I couldn't understand why a mother would want to destroy her son. She would throw him in juvenile for no reason. And so finally, I looked at the young man. Me and him had a talk. I said, dude, you got to learn how to shut your mouth. I said, you dealing with a hood mom. You ain't going to win this battle. You too smart. And I said, you only 6 months away from going off to college. I says, be smart, shut your mouth, and do what you told. And he did it. But here's the thing. When he went off to Tennessee State and he became a Kappa, and he's at his ceremony, who's hollering, that's my baby? Who's hollering, that's my baby? And I'm sitting in the back ready to fight because I'm already pissed off because me and you done had several rounds and you screaming and hollering, that's my baby, that's my baby. But my mother told me this. This will baffle me about mentorship. She said, son, no matter how rough a mother could be to a child, a son is always going to go back to his mother. And I said, Mom, this mom was putting him in jail for no reason. I had to go help him out. She said, Mark, a son will always go back to his mother. As soon as he was in college, I said, man, where you going, Marquise? I'm going to go holler at my mom real quick. And I'm like, dude, this is the same mom that put you in juvie. Why you want to? So these are the experiences that I had to understand after a while because I didn't know. So when I do mentorship and I see some of these moms, and that's why I started the mothers program. When we relaunched the mentorship in 22, I told my wife, if we don't have any kind of mother support group, I'm not doing it because I'm not arguing with another mom no more. And so that's when we started Moms with Purpose, and they meet once a month. And then what happens is that they call my wife with the problem because I don't want to hear it. And my wife knows how to explain the problem to me where I can deal with it because of my inexperience of seeing the world to where it is now. I didn't know, but just, dealing with the moms and stuff, man, was hard on me. That was very hard. Even when I did the after school, I thought I could get away from it, man. And I was right back in it. So when COVID hit, I was really ready to let the after school go. I was like, I can't take these moms no more. I can't take that. Hey, I can't pay my tuition because my baby daddy didn't give me money. I'm trying to run a business, trying to help your child. And so it was really rough on me. It was really rough. COVID was where I was like, I'm out. I'm out the game. I ain't doing this no more. And my wife talked, she, kept encouraging me, telling me, hey, Mark, you're needed. You're needed. Because my wife grew up without a father. And so, we had our challenge even in marriage at the beginning. But you know who helped me out? My daddy. My dad told me what I had to do because my mom grew up without a father, but my dad grew up with his father. So my dad said, Mark, this is what you're going to deal with your wife because she didn't have a dad. So when these things arise, you know what to do. And sure enough, some of them things arose in our marriage, and I knew exactly what to do because my dad seen the same thing with my mother. And so another thing I would say is that my mother really explained fatherhood to me a whole lot more than my dad, because my mother told me about her side with her father and not having a dad, stuff like that. So I've been given a crash course in 11 years of dealing with fatherhood, man, because I did
Your
not.
life be life here.
Man, it was a lot. And I tell everybody all the time, if it wasn't for God and my mom, I wouldn't be doing this. My mom really, really stayed in my head and giving me great spiritual advice. Because I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, these people got too many problems. They got too many problems. I go to church and see all these single moms crying every week. I'm like, do we have anything that's going to fix the problem? Or at least give them some glue? So I fuss because I'm like, it's a problem. And we ain't talking about it. We don't bring it up in church much, and that's the thing I told even my pastor. We got to bring these issues up because there is no dad walking in the church with their children. It's always a single mama walking. Now, my mom did it, but my dad was at home. And I told a lot of people, my dad lived better than some of the men I've seen at church because he took care of us as a father. So my world is a whole journey, man. And it's still, I write all the time for things that's in my head because it's a journey, man. And this journey actually helped me become the best dad I can be to my two boys. And even when I got back from my retreat yesterday, who greeted me at the garage? My boys. They said, Daddy's home. They're not running around scared that Daddy's going to hurt them and anything else. Dad's home. And so that's my journey. This is how I talk. This is who I am. So you put me on your podcast.
Nah, man, I'm sitting here. I'm just enjoying listening to you because it's such the narrative just needs to be told. There's so many nuggets in what you're talking about. One of the things that raises for me as you're talking is that we can't do this work by ourselves. Like we can't, like this work that we're doing with boys and men can't be done without women no more than the work that they do with women and girls can be done without men. Like this is what you and I are talking about is family and community. Like we are all part of family and community. We create the problems in and of itself. And so we have therefore we have the solutions in and of itself together. So I don't understand sometimes why we're so divided, in this space when it comes to providing services, for parents. Either you got to be an advocate for moms, or you got to be an advocate for dads, or you got to be an advocate for children. Well, why can't we just be advocates for family? Right? Why can't we just figure that out? When you talk about your church, though, and your faith, what is it about your faith personally that strengthens you and continues to allow you to continue to do what you do?
I read a lot. I read the word. I read God's word a lot. And it helps encourage me, especially when you're trying to get funding, when you're trying to make moves. I read a lot and listen to my mom. I go to Sunday school just about every Sunday, man, and just listen to my mom. My mom gives me so much wisdom and knowledge, and it helps me a whole lot. That's really helped me a lot. I love my pastor. We sometimes don't see eye to eye on things, but he understands what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish is bring more awareness to an issue that, no one, that's one of the reasons that we have these problems in the church. And so I've always relied on God. My mom taught me that as a young child. Even when I got into the work, she said, Mark, you got to stay on your knees praying. She said, stay on them knees praying. And my mom is not a mom that you can call with a bunch of whining. She ain't gonna talk to you much. She gonna say you ain't stayed on your knees long enough. Go back and talk to God. That's how my mom talk to me. So I know up front when I'm sad and I need my mom to, hey, I gotta come with a different approach. If I come whining like a baby, she said, "Son, you 47 years old. You don't need to be doing all that whining. You need to be on your knees praying." So I've learned that in life. But my mom, when they was at the conference, they, for them to see their son up here speaking about an issue that my mom can deal, she knows firsthand about. My father don't, because my father grew up with his father. But my faith in God, I pray a lot and I read a whole lot. I do a lot of reading. Reading helps your brain, help you make certain moves. And I tell people, start relying on Facebook for all your knowledge. I say, read a book. So I read a lot of books, and I do a lot of Audible. So that's
I love Audible.
Yeah, that's what helped me.
Absolutely love Audible.
Yeah, it helps me. I'm a very introverted person. People don't think that, but I really like staying to myself and my family. But then I know that God built me to do a work for Him, and that's to restore fatherhood. And you can restore it in so many different ways. Helping a kid have a shot. The young man I interviewed, the news here in Nashville highlight their story and brought awareness. And this young man said, everything Mark told me, I did. And so this young man's doing very well now. And then I even had one young man who was a second young man I mentored. He was on my podcast. And he said, "Marcus, you were like a superhero to me." And he said, "You would pick up your young son. My oldest son was probably about 5 or 6 at the time. And he said, you would take me out to eat, and you'd be fussing at your son and fussing at me at the same time." And so, all those things is centered around why I do the things I do. But my relationship with God has helped me not throw in the towel. I would say that.
Why do you think the conversation is so difficult to have in church?
I think because that's your main problem. I think that a lot of women don't feel comfortable dealing with that issue. That's what I believe. And I think that, preachers and preachers, I'm a student of the word. Preachers know what to say to me. And I told my pastor, I said, why do we always talk about problems every week in your sermons? It's always a problem. The devil going to get you tomorrow. And this every week. And so talk about the importance of family. Talk about the importance of why fathers being home. Talk about women. Hey, watch the goose that you lay down in bed with. Talk about that. Because and I told my wife, y'all have more power than us. Don't open your legs. This probably won't happen. And she don't agree with that with me, but I told her that's your problem. I said, men are hunters. We wolves. You're always going to look. That's what we do. But you can make a sound decision and say, you know what? I'm not going to lay in the bed with you because I don't know what kind of father you're going to be to my child. And so that's one reason why I think it's not brought up in church a lot. It's not popular. It's only popular on Father's Day. And so that's why I'm an individual. You start talking about the devil and tomorrow it's going to be a better day, I tune you out probably 5 minutes. Because I'm like, this, I'm going to tune you out. And I have no disrespect with pastors. I think that you can do a series on the family and you break down mother, father, everybody's role. You break it down and you tell them people in the church, if you want to eliminate a lot of problems in your life, do these steps. Because every decision you make as a parent gonna come with a consequence. Every decision. Even with me as a dad and the work that I do, I have to make sound decisions as a father. Every day. Sound decision. When I'm around single moms all the time. All the time. I'm around single moms. And you're a black man that loves kids, and I'm at home with no man, and you love my child, you're attracted to me. So, the temptation is always there. I mean, I'm a human being. I'm a man. But if I go mess with you and I get you pregnant, then I'm a part of the problem of creating children with no father there. So I have to be disciplined even within myself. I have to be disciplined. Even when I'm tempted, I have to be disciplined because I have 2 kids at home that rely on daddy. 2 kids. And my kids, if I destroy them, that cycle continues. That's why I have a cliche in my organization. The cycle has to end with somebody. So I have to be a responsible dad 24/7. Even when I was at a golf retreat, how many women I saw, tempted, you out of town, all that. And the guys I was with said, man, something about this dude is different. He ain't like everybody else. Is that I really want to be a disciplined father. so my children could see that there was a great dad. My father, if he ever did anything wrong, I don't know about it. And I always seen my father he's disciplined. He's very disciplined. He's old school, live in the country now with goats and hogs. That's who he is. But my father's very disciplined. And so none of his children can say anything bad about my dad. None of us can say anything bad
You know
about
what I think it is?
Yeah.
It's discipline. That's what it shows up as.
Yeah.
But it's focus and commitment. Like when you make a commitment to something, right? That's the problem. When you start describing the power that women have, like it, and then the nature of men, right? It is that in that transaction, more often than not, there's no commitment to anything. That's why marriage is important, right? Because marriage is a symbol of at least the expression of commitment. Like I am going to commit my very life and soul to this relationship so that all things moving forward bears fruit. But if you don't make that commitment up front, then you're not establishing a base to build from. And that's at its principle, right?
Yeah.
At its very foundational space, this issue of commitment, that people just don't want to commit to anything long term. It is about instant gratification. It is about, momentary pleasure. It is about what can I get right now rather than what can I get right now to help me build for what I have in front of me. And I think some of those things are the philosophical things that can be talked about in church without having to get in the weeds of the conversation. And people are smart enough to understand what you're talking about. We do one of these days. I got to come up to Tennessee to do this for you. I have a training that I do called "Standing in the Gap: Single Mothers Raising Boys," and it's like a 5-hour training that I do with single moms. I haven't done it in a while. The last time I did it in Kentucky.
You got to come to Nashville and do that because I have a ton of moms that you could do this class with. So when we relaunch the mentorship in the fall, we're gonna have probably 40 moms. Somebody got to tell me.
Holla at me. I'll
We're
be
gonna have
up there.
like
I'll
40
do it
moms.
for you. You ain't got to expect. I'll drive up and do it for you. I haven't done it in a while. I've
Yeah.
been wanting to do it. I just haven't had the chance to do it. But anyway, the last time I did this, I did it in, I believe it was Louisville. My wife and I actually drove up. She comes with me. I usually bring her with me because she's kind of like your wife. She's my armor bearer.
Yeah.
So she keeps the room settled so I can do what I do.
Yeah.
And I probably had like 75 women in that room that day. And it was the outcome. It starts tight and tense, and then by the end of it, they crying, they releasing. It's like a spiritual something that comes over them. But what I really describe it as is an awakening. Like it is like there's some truths that you have to like be able to absorb as truth. And you have to recognize when you are burying the truth because you want to salvage something in your feelings or some traumatic experience that you don't want to address. And so there is really a relationship component of mentoring that has to take place. And you said it perfectly, which is like one time I went to Minnesota for this, it was a women's conference, and my cousin invited me to Milwaukee to speak to a room full of women. And my cousin is a motivational speaker too.
Okay.
And she said, listen, I want to give you some advice. And I was like, all right, cuz. She's like, when you're standing in front of a room of women speaking, she goes, make sure that you invoke your wife's name at least 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
At least 3 times. Because it sets the room. Because much of the room is looking at you exactly the way that you described, Marcus.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, what? A dude who like loves kids?
Yeah.
Like, and wants to
Yeah.
be the best he could be and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's an opportunity. And they
Yeah.
don't care how they get it, right?
Yeah.
They don't care how they get it. But you have to set the room. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that what you said mirrors something that she said
Mm-hmm.
is stay committed to what you're committed to.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't make decisions that breaks your commitment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If your commitment and my commitment is to do the work that we do,
Mm-hmm.
if we're really and truly committed, we will not do anything or allow anything in our space that
Mm-hmm.
breaks that commitment. That's a
Mm-hmm.
rare man. Man, I
Yeah.
commend you for that because
Yeah.
it's necessary and you got to be that dude. But I'm going to tell you what, and I want you to speak about her for a minute. It
Mm-hmm.
also takes the strong, good thing beside you, which is your
Yeah.
wife. Like, tell me, talk a little bit about her and how she strengthens like who you are as a man. Because I often tell people that my manhood is validated through my wife.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, she grew up without a father. She knows the pain of what some of these women are going through. She knows. She's seen violence in the home. And when we met, like I said, I didn't know about all these different issues, but um, I was thankful my wife allows me to do the things I'm doing now, just like doing this interview now. First thing she said, "Where you going?" And I was like, "Hey, I got to do an interview." And then I have a lunch meeting from 12 to 1, and I'll be back home. And she was like, "All right, cool." It's not, I don't have a nagging wife that nags. That'll irritate the living daylights out of me. Like when I'm focused on what I want to do, I don't let nobody stop me from what I'm trying to do. And my wife knows that. But she also knows I know how to stop, make time for family, and I know how to stop and be sure my kids are okay. One thing I will not do is allow this work to overrule my family, my marriage. I never will do that. I will quit tomorrow. So she knows that. She knows I'm passionate about what I'm doing. She knows that this makes Marcus happy. So she knows how to allow me to be myself and allow me to do the things I enjoy doing because I really wanted a career in training development. And like I was ready to move, leave Nashville. I'm like, it's about myself. I'm trying to, I got degrees. I'm trying to do something else. I'm trying to stop working in this factory because I know I'm gifted. But yeah, man, I can tell you a whole podcast on the factory stories, man. I had you cracking up. But I was at like 2014 was like one of my lowest moments. Even though I was 1 year into the nonprofit, I still was trying to find my career. And my wife says, "Won't you take a year and just focus solely on on your organization? Just focus a year. I help you any kind of way, but I do not want to move I don't want to leave Nashville." So 2015, I really took it. I really started working hard. I put my whole career stuff on the side. I said, "All right, God, let's do what we do." And I started working, but it was because she said that. And I wanted her to be happy. She really loved her job, and I wanted her to be happy. So that's the reason why the nonprofit's still going is because I took that 1 year and I so focused on stronging my father and trying to build. And then it took off. Things started taking off, and I knew I couldn't backtrack and say, "Oh, I quit now." So even if I want to quit in my mind now, the momentum has moved so strong here in Nashville that I can't because there's so many people needing your service, needing what you're doing. But my wife is the one who helps me to keep my head together, and she allows me to go do this because you have some wives that fuss about every little thing, just like me going on a golf retreat. She didn't call me, "Where you at?" And you ain't even no room. No, she was like, "Mark, I trust you while you out of town, and until you give me a reason not to trust you, I ain't gonna bother you." So I appreciate that, and I said, "You know what? I got to continue to earn her trust because I like going places." So I think as a man, I, I just don't want to deal. The thing about Mark is I have so much of my father in me. My father don't like dealing with a lot of problems. He don't like dealing with a lot of problems, and I'm the same way. When I think of different issues and temptation that comes in my head, I think about the consequences. If I go mess with this chick, what's going to happen? And God never tells you consequences. He never tells you what's going to happen. The devil going to tempt you. That's his job. He's going to tempt you women and stuff like that. The bigger you get, the higher you get, the more higher the temptations are coming. But the devil never tells you consequences. And so I think about the consequence. If I sleep with this woman, what could happen? If I go do this, what could happen? So as a father, as a husband, I always think about my wife first. Will it hurt her? Will it hurt her? She's still dealing with, even at her age now, she still deals with the hurt of her father. She's still dealing with it. And we could be watching a show. And I said, where's her dad? Why don't the dad show up? And she just goes off. Well, my dad wasn't in my life. That stuff is always there. And I said, Marcus, you cannot be the one that destroys her because you cannot be disciplined. You cannot be the one, Marcus, that destroyed two of your beautiful sons who looks up to you because you cannot be disciplined. So I don't need a preacher to tell me that every Sunday about being disciplined. I don't need nobody to tell me that. I'm clearly knowledgeable enough to know that as a father, I have to be disciplined to be able to go in our house, and my dad told me this, Mr. Braswell, he said, son, every time you walk in that house better be a house of peace. Every day. He said, whatever crap you're dealing with, you leave that crap in the garage. You leave it in the garage and you come in that house and you make sure it's peaceful. You make sure your wife knows it's peaceful. You know it's safe every day. So every day I walk in the house, I always come in, hey, how you doing, y'all? Give me a hug, it's dad, every day. I come in the house. My kids don't have to run from dad. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1", big guy. But my father taught me that, and I wanted my wife to feel safe every time she come home. And I say this, and I'll be quiet, is that my mother told me this 10 years ago. She said, Marcus, my daughter, Toya, is my only child. And she said, not one night I lay my head down, do I have to worry if my daughter's safe. My mother-in-law told me that. And I says, I told you, when I ask for your daughter hand in marriage, I'm going to protect her. And I'm going to make sure she's safe every day. And so that's why I have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. She knows that, you know what, Marcus, his thing crazy, Mr. Braswell, it was people at my own church told my mother-in-law, don't let Marcus marry your daughter because he's angry. He's going to hurt your daughter. He's going to abuse her. But they didn't know that I never saw any abuse in the home. So I can't beat something that I have never seen. I never seen abuse. I don't know what it means for a man. I've seen on TV. I've seen a lot on TV. But in my house, man, my parents are the same now than they were years ago. My dad's always to play for dad. My mom is always going to tell you everything about Jesus, if you like it or not. This is my life. But, I don't, and I would say this, and I'll be quiet, is that I don't want to disappoint God, and I love my parents so much that I want them to continue to see their son. When they see me on TV or any work I'm doing, I want them to see their son as the son that they raised and not the son that they did not raise.
Yeah, man, goodness, brother.
I can talk a lot, man. So
no, this is about you. This is not even about me. I'm just facilitating this conversation. And so I do want to talk about this because I think it's important for those of us who really want to make, scaled change, right? Mm-hmm. And so I know being a man of God like I am as well, much of what I do is principled through the word, right? I may not call my organization a Christian organization. I may not be quote unquote faith-based, but I am faith-led. Everything that I do is as a result of my faith. And so, which makes me understand, some of the marketplace principles as well as the kingdom principles, right? I know that those two things have to marry with each other. And so part of, what irritates me sometimes is in doing this great work in working with people and liberating and saving and helping people is that there were aspects of Jesus's ministry that was business, right? And there's a reason that he had a tax collector. There's a reason that he had an accountant. There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason that he had a lawyer. There's a reason that he had a thug.
Mm-hmm.
Because I am convinced that there were some towns that Jesus went to go speak in, and they were supposed to give him, 3 ears of corn and a sheep
Mm-hmm.
or something. And there was some promoter that was there, was like, "Oh man, Jesus, we ain't get enough, at the door.
Somebody gonna
We
get their
can't pay
money.
you."
Yeah. Somebody gonna get their money out for you. Yeah. Gonna get that out
Man,
for
he
you.
had to get back to the camp. He was like,
Yeah.
Peter, I need you to go over there and handle our business. So there's a need for the business aspect of what we do.
Mm-hmm.
How do you juggle that piece? Because the more people you work with, the more you scale, which means the more resources you need. So at some point, while you are not thinking about your children, you have to think about, how am I going to support myself to continue to do that? Because every dollar that you give to your calling, that replaces dollars that is supposed to be for your family, is a
Mm-hmm.
subtraction from your family. How do
Yeah.
you deal with that when you're thinking about the work you're doing?
I've learned 12 years ago, this lady told me, I'm gonna train you how to be a grant writer. I'm gonna train you how to write. So you can write for your organization. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on depending on somebody to write for you. So I figured that out. I've been really blessed to hit a lot of grants written and writing grants. Um, and then I told my board this is what my salary is going to be. I just told you up front, I'm going to make this much money, and I'm going to be sure I get this much money to do the things I need to do. I ain't negotiating. I'm just not. I'm an animal when it comes to trying to go fundraise and do the things I need to do, because at the end of the day, somebody say ain't nobody come to save you. Ain't nobody come to save you. So you got to go out here and work, do what you need to do, make great connections, build relationships, to be able to support my family, because this is how I eat. This is how I feed my family. It's through Stronger My Father, my full-time job. When I left the factory 6 years ago, I just told God, take care of me and my family, and I do your work. I do it, because I walked off the job not knowing where my next paycheck was coming from. And I had some money in my savings and stuff, but when I walked off the job, June 1st, 2018, I didn't know. I just took a chance. My father's in my ear. You better not leave that factory. That's how you gonna take care of your family. Um, but I said I'm grown, and I'm gonna make. And I told God I'm gonna make a move. And I said, if you are God and who you are, you're gonna take care of me. And not one day if I starved. One day if I made, people thinking nonprofit, you supposed to make low money and be
Right.
poor. No, no. You go out here and work hard. You hit some of these grants and do the things you need to do to fundraise and stuff. You're gonna be just fine. I know guys make over 100K doing this work, and that was one of my goals. I said I want to make over 100K doing this, and I'm working hard towards that. And so that I'll have my brain has a goal. I don't let nothing stop me from that goal. And so I told God that. I told God, I love board members. I appreciate mine. I don't depend on you. I don't depend on you for my livelihood. I depend on one person. That's God. I said, God, let's do what we do best. And I go out here and work. Board members has helped tremendous with Stronger My Father. All my board members. And so even those who are not with me no more. And I told every board member, each board member put a pebble into what I'm doing. And so that's how I look at it. That's how I work hard to do the things I'm doing, make good connections, like, talking with you and seeing if we could do something together. And then and that's how I operate, that's how I work. I do work alone a lot. Only thing I will tell you is that my board members say, Mark, you go so fast, you got to keep us abreast of what you're doing, because you're always moving. Because that's how my mind operates. Because even if God blessed me with $1 million grant and I'm good financially, I never want to stop having this mindset of that it's not enough. I got to keep working. And I will tell you this, I have learned how to try relaxing some, but working and talking with God. I was driving back from Birmingham from the golf retreat. I'm talking to God pretty much all the way back. Like, these are things I need to do. I'm going into a new season. Looking to build an entrepreneurship center, not doing your traditional after schools. That's after school anymore. That's going to take money. That's going to take these things to do. But I said, God, we started an after school program with nothing. with an old beat up white van. And then next thing you know, we had 125 kids before the pandemic, and we had 5 vans outside. You have to keep that relationship with God. You got to talk to him. I talk to him all the time. When I'm by myself, I'm talking, I'm asking God what moves to make. And then I get a connection, or I go to the mailbox. There's a check in there for $5,000 for a grant I didn't even have to write. They just said, because we saw your newsletter, we knew you was good for it. And they sent me a check for $5,000. So the grant they received from the Phoenix Club, that was nobody but God. Because I'm in my networking group, I stand up for my 60-second commercial, and I think anybody know any organization that's giving out foundational grants, because I'm a grant writer. This guy who I would have never thought was in the Phoenix Club in Nashville said, Mark, have you heard of Phoenix Club? I'm on the foundation board. I said, look at God. I said, I wrote 2 years ago, we was not funded. And he says, you know what? I'm going to make sure you get that money. And I modified the grant, and they said, congratulations, you're getting $38,670. That's how my relationship with God is that I talk to him, and then he helps me to make moves. And you ask, different times I've met people. One guy, I had a booth set up. Next thing I know, I get a check in the mail for $2,000. I said, man, you didn't have to do this. He said, man, just talking to you, Marcus, sitting at your booth, you inspired me to give. I told my mom, when we have a small foundation, we wanted to give you a check for $2,000. Just how I work, Mr. Braswell, I work through God. Like I said, I just don't need preachers hyping me up. You don't need hype, Mark. You don't need to hype me up, get me all excited and crap. I don't need all that. I wake up motivated. Well, I will tell you one of my secrets is that I watch The Last Dance just about every week. I love The Last Dance with Michael Jordan because he didn't let nobody stop him from what he was trying to do. So I have one of my good buddies, one good friend of mine. He says, he calls me all the time. He all call my wife. Is Marcus watching The Last Dance? And he ain't answering. But I use things to motivate me. I love the late Kobe Bryant, the Mamba mentality. That's who I am. I'm an aggressive guy who's trying to get what he needs to get, and I don't ask for no permission to do it. I say, I'm trying to help these young men have a shot. I ain't here to play games. I'm not here to be popular. I care less about that. I said, God, I want to do your will before you take me out of this earth. So when you take me out of this earth, I did everything you want me to do. And I've given my life, just like Dr. King, I've given my life to a cause that if a man can't stand up for a good cause, you ain't fit to live. This is a cause and a problem. That's why kids act up in school, because daddy ain't in the home. That's why kids act up in school. I would be terrified if a teacher said, do I need to call your daddy? My 2 boys, my youngest 8, he's the one that tries daddy the most. All I told that teacher on open house was just say, do I need to call your daddy? And my youngest son said, don't call my daddy. Because I said, if I come to school, man, you got a problem. We got a problem. And that's how the power of fatherhood is. Chris Rock said in one of his comedy skits, don't call my daddy. That's the problem that's going on. And when I see kids running around at church, we couldn't do that growing up.
Right.
I see parents ain't paying attention to their kids. My kid walk up in church, where you going? Dad, I'm just going to the bathroom, make it quick. I'm on them because that eliminates a lot of your problems. If when daddy there and when daddy can do, and I tell fathers all the time, do the right thing to be respected as a man in your house. I can be respected as a man in my house because of the decisions I make. And doing this work for 11 years I've done this work, and it's not one woman could say that Marcus tried to make a move on it. And I'm not doing that to say, pat me on my back, care less about that. I did it because it was right. And when you do things that's right, God opens doors for you. When you live right and you do right, that's how I'm getting all these grants that people are seeing that I have to post. If it wasn't for me, I wouldn't post one grant I received, because it's not about me, it's about God. But God gets the glory. God gets for all the things, your work you've done. And that's how I live my life, Mr. Braswell. And some people like it, some people don't. At the end of the day, I said, I don't care. I said, who are you, like Tyler Perry said, who are you help crossing the bridge right now? Who are you helping? Because if you can get all this knowledge, wealth, go to college, and you get all this stuff, and you successful. Tony Evans says, God didn't bless you that degree for you. He blessed you that degree to go help one person. Go help one person cross that bridge. I told my pastor that. I said, who you help cross? You got all these plaques on your wall. Cool. Who you help cross the bridge? Who you help? So when preachers get on it talking about their degrees, I care less about your degrees. I care less what school you went to. I care if you were helping somebody have a better life. That's what I care about. If you can tell me that when I see your gentlemen and they're graduating from the I don't know the whole name. I just know I see these guys.
Gentle Warriors Academy. Gentle Warriors Academy.
When I see that, I said, okay, Brads were doing something different. I said, man, I want to do that. I want to do that, man. I love challenge. I want to do that. And I was like, man, if we can help guys in Nashville, dads can be better dads. Man, we could change the world, man, because that's the foundation is the Father. And that foundation.
Yeah, let's do that, bro.
That's what God, when you build the foundation of dads, I'm telling you, man, kids don't act up. I got friends right now that grew up with their father. And I see them in the church and what kind of fathers they are to their kids. And I said in my head, that's the logic. They there for their kids. And then when I see the moms crying every Sunday and crying all the time, and everybody go through stuff. But it's usually because I'm trying to take care of. I've had women on my podcast. The last couple episodes, these moms were popping off because they're dealing with life reality as a single mom, having to wash, having to deal with this, can't find a baby daddy. All these are problems. But if the man would do his job, 99% of them problems go away. My wife can't talk about no problems and what's she going through. I tell her all the time, what you going through? I said, you deal with a man who loves you, make sure you're well taken care of, make sure my children are well taken care of. And I will say this, and I'll be quiet, is that every time I go out on my mentor sessions, you always see my boys with me. Because I don't want my boys ever to say, Daddy, you helped everybody else out, but you never had time for me. Mm-hmm. So they don't like getting up on Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock for a mentor session. Dad, let me sleep. No, you get up, you better put some clothes on, and you're going to come mentor with Daddy. Now they so excited. Daddy, are you going out to mentorship? Are you going out here, Daddy? I want to go with you, Daddy. That's because I knew the value of fatherhood, and I knew that, hey, Mark, you can't go ahead and save all these other kids, but you neglect the ones at home. So my boys were with me all the time. So sorry for my soapbox. That's who I am, man. Just what you put on your podcast, man.
Listen, I love it, bro. Let's just touch and agree, man. We're going to figure out how to scale you because you're reminding me of me when I was you, really trying to do this thing. And it was leaps of faith that I took, your leap of faith or leaps of faith that I took. Literally not knowing, just trusting that, God was telling me to do something very specific and I was not leaning left or right on that. I was going straight ahead. Mm-hmm. And whenever I did that, those blessings showed up at times that I wasn't even expecting them to show up. Mm-hmm. And I too, like you, look at my wife and my kids and the dog and everybody else. I'm like, y'all living pretty well, right now. I'm sitting here stressing, about where the next dollar is coming from. Y'all chilling, but you know what? That's what I asked God for. I said, always tell people, be careful what you ask for, right? And so, because he just may give it to you, right? And with, great power comes great responsibility. And so you have the amount of people that you impact. And then the last thing I'll share with you is, you talk about, the temptation when you're doing the great work that you're doing. The other thing that happens is that when the devil figures out he can't get you, distract you, or disturb you through normal things, he'll start coming after your family. And so you always got to make sure that your family is covered with respect to not allowing them, because, something happens, God forbid, to any one of your family members in the midst of you doing your work, it can be extremely distracting, right? And take your foot off of that pedal, go to run to take care of your family, and then this calling that you have is put on hold, or you looking at it and saying, you know what, I need to take care of my family. I can't do this work no more. That's exactly what the devil wanted you to do, right? But he couldn't get you any other way but to come at your family, which is what your mother said to you is so poignant in this conversation is when that stuff happened, get on your knees. Stay on your knees, right? And make sure that as you're praying for blessings and resources and all of those things, that one of the two things I pray for the most, one is hedge of protection around me and my entire family. And the second thing is always have usefulness for me. Always have usefulness for me in the sense that I don't want a day of my life to come where God doesn't have use for me. Because I think that's when people check out. I think when people check out is when God doesn't have any use. You don't give God a reason to have use for you. And when you're not useful to God, then what's the point? Like, what's the point? What's the point? So I always pray for God, always have usefulness for me. Whatever your plans are for this particular thing and for this world, put me in, coach, because I need to be useful. I need to be useful in this space until I can't be useful in this space anymore. And there ain't no signs of that happening right now. And so I know I got some people's lives I need to change. And there's some, for you and I in this work that we do, like we're impacting people that will probably never know we impacted. There'll be some kid 15, 20 years from now that'll be in church telling his testimony. And he'll say, I owe my life to Marcus. I never had a chance to thank him, but I am who I am today because that man stepped into a place and compensated for someone who was supposed to be there but wasn't. And I am confident that when I look at, we are graduating 50 plus fathers every quarter, 755 in the last 3.5 years, 900 to 1,000 by the end of 2025. That's 1,000 men. If you think about it from a generational aspect, to impact 1,000 men, generations forward, is millions of people that I could have impacted by Gentle Warriors Academy. So keep on going, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm here to support you 1,000%. We're going to build together. You ain't that far from me. And I want to see you win. I want to see you succeed. And to the extent that I can do that, I'm all in. So put me in, coach. I ain't
text me your number. Text me your number after this interview, man, because I don't have your number.
Will.
But I will
ain't
say
trying to do no mentorship stuff. I ain't in that. But I'll mentor the Jesus out of man. But children, somebody else got to deal with them. I got enough of my own 15-year-olds. So just yesterday we had a tie up a little bit. And I'm like, oh my goodness, man, because I'm trying. Like, man, we got to come back and actually talk very specifically about the process of mentoring. I want to talk to you about that. And what does that look like? Because that's transferable to parenting, right? And transferable back from parenting to mentorship, which is like this new age, these new age kids, right? These Generation Zers, and what you have now is these alpha gens, these gen alphas are what they call them. They're a different breed. They different kind of kids. They ain't like us. Well, you a millennial. Well, you're a millennial. I'm a baby boomer. So my whole philosophy about life is to Gen Zers Z, right? We are on two sides of the spectrum when it comes to how we look at life, how we manage life, how we have expectations, our goals, how we think we're going to get there. And if generationally we think differently, then the way we parent also has to be different. Am I right about that?
Yes, sir. You're on spot. I can't debate you on that one. So you're totally right. You're totally right. I think just how I was telling the guys on the golf street how I operate only through my father. They kept making fun of me about it, but I'm never going to stop. I'm only going to be who I am because of my dad. And like I said, I applaud you for your work. I've been following you probably over 10, 11 years. I probably used some of your posts to, when I saw Happy New Year, and I've been following you for a long time. I've watched your work for years. Just seeing someone else doing the work of serving fathers. When you was on Oprah, I was probably happy. I was like, man, that's Braswell, on Oprah. And I was watching it with my wife. I was like, I watch it, So when you had your golf tournament, I just wanted to meet you. And that's why I said I just want to meet Mr. Braswell to say, man, you have somebody in Nashville who's watching you, who's inspired by you, that your work, that you're trying to serve fathers. Because like I said, I was new to the world. I was new to this space. And then I found your work years ago. Gosh, probably 10, 11 years ago, I found your work that you're doing. And I followed you ever since. I followed you. So when you say, hey, can you come on my podcast? I was honored to come on your podcast. I was honored. And hopefully we can do you jump on mine and we
absolutely flip me in. I want to come in person though. I see you got your people in person. You just got maybe you come at the same time that I come up there and do the
training with the moms.
The training. Then. So
listen,
tell people how to get in contact with you and how to donate to Stronger Than My Father.
Yeah, you can reach out to me at my website, strongerthanmyfather.org. It's my website. Click on the donation button to the right. Whatever amount you give will continue to help us continue to fight for our young people with fatherhood. And then you can always reach out to me by cell. I have no problem giving it out. 615-403-6066. So anybody who's listening to this that wants to connect, hey, let's go make it work. Just know you're dealing with somebody who's an animal who want to work. Like I'm ready to work. So I want to continue to impact fathers. So Mr. Braswell, thank you for this opportunity. When I saw your message on LinkedIn, I was so excited. The golf people was like, Mark, we gotta play golf. I was like, man, I want to be on Mr. Braswell's show, man. So, I was happy, man. I watch your podcast, I watch what you're doing, and watching the impact. And like I said, I'm inspired by you to try to make a difference in this world, and then hopefully we can any partnership. I'm definitely open to it. So, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And to my I Am Dad podcast listeners, listen, thank you for listening. Incredible brother right here. Please support him. You have his information. And if not, you can come to our I Am Dad podcast page and catch his links. But to all my listeners, you know how I like to leave you. Always be kind to others as you're kind to yourself, or you might find yourself by yourself. Always shoot high for your goals, because even if you mix, you'll be amongst the stars. And as my good friend and mentor, Art Mitchell, used to always say to me, it's nice to be important, but you know what? It's much more important to be nice. Till next Sunday, peace out.
Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You've been listening to I Am Dad Podcast. We hope that you have been informed, encouraged you to think, or even inspired your heart for the love of dads. The conversation does not end here. Come back and join us next week. Same time, same place. Or you can continue the dialogue on our I Am Dad Facebook page. We also invite you to listen to past episodes, learn more about us, and keep up with special activities by visiting IamDadPodcast.com. That's IamDadPodcast.com. Until next time, I leave you with this reminder of manhood from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Because of this reminder, I will always understand that I am dad, period.